Good evening, everybody. I can see we've got some attendees joining us. I will just give it a few minutes as people are coming on, and then we'll get started. Welcome. If you're just joining us, we're waiting a few moments while people are logging in, and then we'll get started here. Good evening and welcome to this View Royal All Candidates Forum. My name is Judy Lawler and I'm the Executive Director with the WestShore Chamber of Commerce. I would like to start by acknowledging with respect that we are on the traditional and unceded territories of the Esquimalt and Songhees nations. I am deeply grateful to be able to work on this land. Without any further ado, it's my pleasure to pass over to the moderator, Chris, who will take us from here. Over to you, Chris.
Thanks very much, Julie, and good evening, everyone. And thanks very much for joining us for the Colwood All Candidates Forum. My name is Chris Burdge of bWEST Interactive, and I am pleased to be your moderator for this evening. We've got a full evening planned, and if anyone is only able to attend part of the forum, don't worry, because it's being recorded and it will be posted to the WestShore Chamber's YouTube account later this week. So it's always a challenge to get the right balance between the length of the event and the opportunity for the voters to hear from all of the candidates on a range of issues. This forum is not a debate on purpose so that there is no over-talking of any one candidate over another. The evening will include opening statements, a selection of questions submitted in advance by View Royal voters that are already shared with candidates, and then closing statements. To ensure voters can hear consistently from all of the candidates, there will be no questions from the floor at this event. During the event, our timekeeper will use the raise hand function to indicate the candidate has 15 seconds left. And when they're out of time, the hand will disappear and there will also be an audio signal. The candidate will then be given a few additional seconds to wrap up and then will be muted so that we can keep on time. So with that, let's get started. So we are going to start with the 3-minute opening statements by the mayoral candidates and then 2-minute statements by each of the councillor candidates. We're going to be going in alphabetical order by last name, with the mayoral candidates going first. So with that, I would like to invite David Screech to start us off. The floor is yours, David.
Thank you very much. And just to be clear, this is the View Royal All Candidates meeting, not the Colwood All Candidates meeting. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending tonight, and thanks to Judy Lawler and her team at the WestShore Chamber of Commerce for organizing this evening. My name is David Screech, and I'm seeking re-election as the Mayor of View Royal. I was a councillor for the town from 2002 to 2014, and I've been mayor since 2014. Before being elected to council, I was very involved in our community through different community groups and the town's Park Advisory Committee. My wife, Jean, and I own and operate a long-standing Victoria business, Bregg's Furniture and Upholstery. I've been a resident of View Royal for the last 24 years and a lifelong resident of the region. I believe that those of us who live on southern Vancouver Island are blessed, and we are so fortunate to live, work, and call this beautiful community home. As your mayor and a councillor, I've been honored to represent the town at many outside agencies and boards, including the CRD, where I've been vice chair of the board and chair of the Capital Region Housing Corporation. I am also currently the chair of the CRD's Transportation Committee, an important area for our town to have influence given the transportation challenges we face. We have a wonderful community in View Royal, and I believe that my passion for our community, along with my commitment and experience, place me in an excellent position to lead our community for the next 4 years. Successive councils in View Royal have focused on providing the community with stable, effective, and focused governance. Along with that, council has led with principled and collaborative leadership while working hard to ensure a values-based decision-making process. This is one of the key reasons why our town is such a wonderful place to call home. Myself and our council focus on what we should, and View Royal is our #1 priority. If re-elected mayor, I commit to work to maintain one of the lowest residential tax rates in the CRD through responsible budgeting and spending, to be part of an open, ethical, and accessible council, promote active living and transportation with parks, trails, recreation, and transportation networks that encourage multimodal usage, and to ensure that all voices are heard during the decision-making process. And lastly, to manage growth in such a way that we protect the character of our town. With the increase in council size and the development pressures facing our town, I believe that my experience on council will be an asset for the next 4 years. Thank you, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you, David. Sid, the floor is yours. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, sir. My name is Sid Tobias, and hello, neighbors. I'm running for mayor of View Royal as one of 2 candidates. I'm running for mayor to offer you a choice on the ballot on the 15th of October. I'm running largely because my neighbors petitioned me to provide a choice on the ballot. As the current mayor was elected 4 years ago by acclamation, and if I did not run for mayor this opportunity, he would be elected twice by acclamation, giving a 12-year run with only 1 electoral challenge. I served in the military for 24 years and retired at the highest rank in a non-commissioned service as a Chief Petty Officer First Class. I served because I believe that protecting Canada and its allies on their shared principles of democracy require a choice. Fundamentally, democracy requires a choice in order to be a democracy. I believe in listening to my neighbors, helping out when they need it, and asking for help when I do. I live in a great community behind Helmken Market. It's a special community where kids play on the street with highly visible signs and vigilant parents. They play on the street because it's close to their house and it slows traffic down that is bypassing Helmken gridlock. They're playing on the street with their parents watching to reclaim a neighborhood struggling to maintain its sense of identity with the highest density housing being constructed a stone's throw away. I'm running for my neighbors who can't afford to move and have earned the right to age in place. I now work as the Director of Digital Services with the Environmental Assessment Agency. I work with heroes who do their best to listen to the public, First Nations, and developers and navigate and mitigate the effects on our environment every day. I build teams that build software to ensure the public is heard and that they have the information they need to make informed decisions in an intense dialogue on important issues about our future and about our environment. I believe in public engagement as a pillar to making enduring decisions that our children will live with. I lead the development of our software teams with radical transparency in the process, so anyone at any time can view its progress and ask what is coming next and have full view of some of the mistakes that we've made along the way. We learn from them as we go, and I believe very much in transparency and decision-making. I continue to learn more every day about our environment and the cumulative effects on development. I learn that other rapidly changing dynamics must be paramount when making decisions such as tree canopy and conservation. These things will be important if elected mayor to conserve and protect. Thank you.
Thank you, Sid. Now we will move on to the councillor candidates. Don, you're up next. You have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. My name's Don Brown. I'm running to be a member of council to the town of View Royal. And I'd like to thank the WestShore Chamber of Commerce and Julie in particular for putting this event together. I've been a longtime resident of View Royal. I moved here in 2005, and prior to that I was in Langford, and prior to that I lived in Souk. I've always been active in every community I've lived in a number of ways, in particular coaching youth sports teams, and especially box and field lacrosse teams. I was also a member of a very small group that decided we wanted to form a Rotary Club in the West Shore that didn't meet early in the mornings because none of us were early morning risers. And so we created the Rotary Club of West Shore, and I was fortunate enough to be elected to be the charter president of that club. I chose the Rotary Club because I was so impressed with the work that Rotary does internationally, nationally, and locally. One of the things we did in the club I really like doing was reading to kids children one-on-one in this local elementary schools. We call it the BEAR program, to be excited about reading, where several Rotarians went into local elementary schools and had one-on-one reading with young students. I'm currently the chair of the View Royal Parks, Recreation and Environment Committee, which I've really enjoyed. My elected political experience is a school trustee. I served two terms or 6 years in the Nanaimo Ladysmith School District, where I was the vice chair, and also 6 years in the school district of Souk, 3 years in each zone, one in the Belmont zone and one in the Souk zone. I'm a graduate of the University of Victoria, and I've also done some instructing of criminology at 2 universities. I was also the chief bio officer for the CRD Bio and Animal Care Services that provide animal care services, Town of View Royal. I believe there's 3 key issues we have to deal with in this election. One is housing, affordability and availability, and 2 is the transportation, and 3 is climate control. And I thank everyone for tuning in tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Judy, you're up next, and you'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, West Shore, and thank you, Chris, for moderating. That's very kind of you. I'm Judy Estrin. I'm running for council. I have never run for public office before in my life, so this is a brand new experience, which I am thoroughly enjoying. I've met a lot of lovely people. I chose to move to View Royal 4 years ago, and as soon as I did, I joined the ESS team as part of the View Royal Fire Department. And the purpose for doing that was to be a part of where I live, to also know what's going on when there is a disaster, and to be of service to my neighbors. Since moving to Victoria, I have been part of Leadership Victoria. I've been on the board of the Rainbow Kitchen, and I am currently a volunteer there. Now, a little bit about me. I've had a business of my own for over 25 years in management and leadership development, but let's talk about governance and what we're really here to do. First and foremost, I'm about fiscal responsibility. And with that 25 years in my own business, I'm always concerned about how money is spent, and nobody spends less than I do without asking the question why, or less than I do without asking why. And you can always count on me to ask you, why are we doing this? Why should we do it? I believe one of our main responsibilities over the next 4 years is the oversight of the OSP, which I believe requires more significant community input before the council finalizes the plan. Personally, I want to see height restrictions, setbacks, and if you take out a tree, you plant one somewhere else in the community, if not back in the very same place. And as a user of the parks and trails near me, I'd like to see more benches, places that are shaded, water stations, and trash recycling bins. That's on a very micro level, not the macro level of governance. One of the other things I'm interested in doing is to seek and implement a process to increase community engagement. I'm interested in looking at transportation and support the ongoing beautification of View Royal through the arts. I want us to be the best small city in BC. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Judy. Damian, you're up next, and you'll have 2 minutes.
Good evening, fellow candidates, our moderator, Chamber of Commerce Representative Julie Lawler, and of course, all the viewers right now who are watching. Thank you. You've taken the time out of your day to watch all of our speeches and hear a bit about us and learn our values. I'm Damian Kowalewich. I'm a current sitting councillor for the town of View Royal. I'd like to take a moment to tell you a little bit about who I am and what I believe in during the introduction. My full-time job, I am a police detective sergeant with the local police department. There, I've worked for almost 2 decades. I've learned so many important values that I still practice today and that have carried over into my councillor duties: integrity, honesty, fairness, compassion, empathy, and the importance of family. Speaking of family, I have a young family. I have 2 young children who have grown up in View Royal for all of their lives. That's all they know. I have a sense of responsibility to the community. to be that voice for young families. As we know, our latest census has revealed we've grown exponentially in View Royal, largely because of young families. We chose to raise our family in View Royal, and we will continue to do so. I am here to promise you to provide you steady and reliable leadership as we move forward with our next council. With the expansion of council, you have choices. It's important to examine incumbents and new candidates carefully when you select our names at the ballot box. I promise to always take pride in this community. I will never take this position for granted. I'm asking for your vote again, and I promise not to let you down. Thank you.
Thank you, Damian. Gery, you're up next, and you have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you to Julie and her chamber team for hosting us tonight. I'm Gery Lemon. View Royal has been my home for 30 years. I'm a writer, a journalist, and former government communications professional, a wife, a mom, and a grandmother. And it's been my pleasure and honor to represent residents as a town councillor for the past 4 years. I'm proud of many of the initiatives and decisions we undertook as a council over this past term, some of which I was very involved in. It was a different kind of term by any standard because COVID kept the public out of council chambers for much of it. So I look forward to a term in which we can actively meet and engage with more residents. This is our town, and we all do better with input, consultation, and collaboration. That's a priority going forward for me. I'm a listener, a strong representative of View Royal, and the interests and concerns of residents come first for me. We all have a responsibility to do what we can in a changing world, and if re-elected, I'll be seeking ways for more homeowners to replace their gas-burning furnaces with heat pumps through larger incentives and rebates. Ditto for e-vehicles for those who swap out their fuel combustion engines. I'll work with colleagues on possible ways we can do our part for the health crisis by making View Royal a viable option for GPs to establish a practice. View Royal has values that I think are evident as soon as you enter the town, and those are to be maintained so that our corners and neighborhoods remain intact. The first thing I learned as a councillor was that from bylaws to development cost charges to floor space ratios and zoning, there's a lot to learn. In a new term, I feel well armed to hit the ground running and work on your behalf. And I hope I get that opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gery. Alison, you're next up. You have 2 minutes.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak at this important forum. I'm Alison MacKenzie, and a little about me. I'm a career public servant, having worked in policy in the federal government, in the UK civil service, and currently working as a director of labour market policy in the provincial government. I have a passion and expertise in social welfare and social policy. And this evidence-based approach and knowledge of best practices is something I hope to bring to all decisions on council. There is much research on what makes for happy and healthy communities, having mixed income housing, green spaces, and walkable amenities and services. This is something that I feel needs to be a reminder to council in relation to all development decisions. I am not an aspiring politician. I am just someone who wants to improve my community where I see a need and opportunity. I'm a problem solver and someone who gets things done. I am involved in my community, currently sitting on the board of trustees for the Royal Oak Burial Park, the View Royal Board of Variance, and my Strata board in Glentana Village. And through this volunteer service, I have demonstrated my objective, financially effective, and well-informed decision-making. I am grateful to live in View Royal with my partner Sean and recently adopted 14-year-old cat Charlie. I love this town. The parks and shorelines are the hidden gem of Greater Victoria and only second to the amazing people that live here. Our people are diverse, and we now have an opportunity to reflect this diversity in the representation of our elected officials, both in terms of demographics and location in town. I hope to provide a fresh new perspective to the table in these times of growth and change, and to represent more of the voices in View Royal. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison. And Ron, you're next up, and you'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to thank the Chamber for putting this event on. It's much appreciated, and it's what makes our election possible. I'd like to begin by thanking the residents of View Royal for their support for my over 25 years on council. Thank you. It's been an honor and a privilege to represent you, or as I'd like to say, to be your voice on council. My wife Linda and I moved to View Royal over 40 years ago for its unique charm and character. We stayed to raise our family because View Royal is a warm and welcoming community. I've been blessed to give back to the community by serving as a councillor for 25 years. Over that time, View Royal has transitioned from a sleepy rural community with a population of less than 5,000 and a few services to what many feel is the most attractive municipality in Greater Victoria. View Royal now has a population well in excess of 10,000 and boasts many new services for shopping, medical clinics, financial services, restaurants, and so much more. We're also blessed to live in a community that is steeped with natural beauty. That includes, amazing ocean vistas and beaches, many parks, playgrounds, and trails for use for residents of all ages. And best of all, we've been able to accomplish this while retaining much of View Royal's unique charm and character. If I'm fortunate enough to have your support this election, I promise to keep listening to your views and concerns. Together, we can make View Royal the best place to call home. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. And last but not least, John, you'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. My thanks to the WestShore Chamber of Commerce, and welcome everybody. I'm glad you're able to attend. It's been a great honor to serve you as councillor this term. In the past, I've been your representative in many ways. I've been on the Greater Victoria Library Board, Regional Housing Trust Fund, the CRD Arts Commission, and the 2 water commissions as well. Together, we have accomplished so much this term. For example, we've kept taxes reasonable despite the COVID pandemic and the casino closures, addressed housing needs, including many rental units, strengthened our parks with trails, the wonderful bike park, and added new playgrounds and much needed amenities. We've got great efficiencies in the town services and strengthened both our police and fire services. My years of experience, diligence, council attendance, and active participation speaks for itself. I have investigated, listened, asked the tough questions, and found creative and collaborative solutions. I've managed your tax dollars wisely. I understand the importance of strong partnerships with our municipal partners, neighbors, as well as the First Nations neighbors next door. I've represented you on both local and regional levels and always have acted in your best interest. Your neighbors have said the following endorsements about me. He will not shy away from a debate and works hard for the best interests of residents. John has my vote. Don't think after more than 2 decades on council, he is slowing down. He remains at the top of his game and his interest in serving his community is as strong as ever. We find the municipality an excellent place to live because of people like John Rogers. As a councillor, we have found John an excellent person to work with. He's accessible, knowledgeable, honest, and in short, you see what you get. I want to continue my work with you, for you, and to improve our community and serve to the highest standards. My thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. So we have gotten through the opening statements. The only hiccup being the moderator actually misspoke the name of the municipality. So indeed, I know we're at View Royal, and my bad for reading directly off the script. Next, we're going to move into the questions, and in order to avoid listeners voters having to listen to 9 responses to the same question all at once, the candidates have been divided up into 2 groups. So all candidates in both groups will be asked 4 core questions and then 2 randomly drawn questions. The candidates in Group A are Judy Estrin, Alison MacKenzie, Ron Mattson, John Rogers, and David Screech. We have used the Google random number generator to determine who would go first in answering questions. And we are just telling the candidates about this now. So Judy Estrin, you will go first, and then we will take it in turn alphabetically. Candidates, you will have 1 minute to answer each question, and then you will see the raise hand from our timekeeper, and then you will have 15 seconds left. Judy, the first question is, many residents are struggling in the current economic environment, given the steep growth in inflation. How will this factor into how you vote on spending initiatives?
Thank you. As I said earlier, I'm very tight with the dollar, and this struggling and just what a bag of groceries costs now is a huge impact on everyone in View Royal and in the city, in Victoria in general. So I will always be asking, why are we considering doing something? And what are the long range ramifications? As we look, what I would call a future poll, I'd start 20 years out and I'd come back to see, is what we're thinking about doing going to have the right impact as we look down the road? It's a go to the future and look backward perspective that I think will keep us on the path that's the straight and narrow, and will help us get the right places for our neighbors, so that we don't spend their money irresponsibly, but we spend it on things that are important, that we look at staffing, that we look at our own salaries, and we act responsibly. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Alison, you're up next. You'll have 1 minute.
Like many of our residents in View Royal, I too feel the challenge of inflation and cost of living that we're facing today. All of our expenses are increasing. It is more important now than ever that we examine every cost incurred, no matter how minimal, to ensure that is absolutely necessary. With your vote, I will take an innovative and creative approach to issues and decisions to successfully achieve our goals while ensuring cost effectiveness. And I will take a critical eye to our existing costs for value. And where adding any new costs, I commit to investigating how we can generate revenue or recoup costs elsewhere. Councillors need to be financial stewards, and if elected, I will aim for every dollar spent to have an equal or greater value to residents in View Royal. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison. Ron, you're up next. You'll have 1 minute.
Thank you. View Royal currently has one of the lowest municipal tax rates in Greater Victoria. Over the years, I've always tried to reduce municipal costs while maintaining the quality of our amenities and services. Fortunately, town has significant annual casino revenues, which has enabled it to undertake many new capital projects without raising taxes. However, with rising inflation, higher interest rates, and a potential recession, council will need to look for ways to cut municipal costs. And this may require reducing service levels, working with adjacent municipalities to share services and resources, and prioritizing new expenditures between nice to have and what is necessary. In summary, over the next 4 years, I will continue to push council to look for ways to reduce expenditures and to spend your tax dollars wisely. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. John, you're up next. You'll have 1 minute.
Thank you very much. Inflation has already had an impact on capital projects for us and the region. I have a proven strong fiscal responsibility, not just at budget time, but year round. This is why in 2019, I opposed waiving the $920,000 of DCC cost charges because of its adverse impact on town finances. Little did we know that the pandemic would hit us. We need to refocus on core services and coordinate regional priorities for maximum cost effectiveness. The same goes for our streets. Safe routes to schools, transit, work, and recreation must be functional first and pretty if we can afford it. We need to balance growth demands with the ability to pay for it. Our annual casino revenues of $2 million a year doesn't go far nowadays. Let's ensure all aspects can be affordable with strong fiscal management. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And David, you're up next. You'll have 1 minute.
Thank you. I think it's been mentioned, we are so lucky to have the casino in View Royal. Last week, we approved a purchase of a $1.4 million fire truck being paid for entirely by casino revenue. And in any other municipality, that would be going on the tax roll. We have been very careful through COVID. We have kept our expenses down, and absolutely we're going to continue to do that. We pride ourselves on a low tax rate, but we also have to be realistic, and there's police expenses coming. There's going to be staff settlement coming. You know, we've seen the BCGEU, what's happening there already, and all of that will have a trickle down. So absolutely, we'll work hard to keep the tax increases minimal, but I personally feel we have to make sure we invest in our community as well. Thank you.
Thank you, David, and thank you, candidates. Okay, so we're on to the next question. Alison, you will start us off with the next question, which is, what?
I don't think I got a chance to answer that one, Chris.
Sorry, there's two groups.
Oh,
Okay. Alison, the question for you is, what specific actions do you want the town of View Royal to take to address climate concerns?
It's important that council make environmental decisions convenient and appealing for residents and discourage environmentally unfriendly actions, which it can do through the development and enforcement of bylaws. I would also like to reduce our reliance on vehicles, both in terms of the design of our town and making it more walkable to businesses and public services, and improving the convenience of active transportation. People will always use vehicles for some purposes, and View Royal can help reduce the environmental impact of this with the adoption of electric vehicles by creating more public charging stations. These charging stations also present an opportunity to create a source of revenue for the town. It is important that all levels of government do their part to ensure environmental sustainability for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison. And Ron, you're up next. You'll have 1 minute.
Thank you. As stated by the World Health Organization, climate change is the single biggest threat facing humanity. And while View Royal certainly can't fix climate change, council can. There's a number of things council can do. Council can introduce policies that reduce production of greenhouse gases, such as requiring new construction to include charging stations for electric bikes and vehicles, providing grants to residents to switch from oil furnaces to heat pumps, and not allowing gas and oil heat in future or in new construction in the future. Council also can put in place policies that mitigate the impact of extreme climate events on the town's most vulnerable residents, those being the elderly and those with health issues. For example, we could install cooling stations in the town, make HEPA filters and portable air conditioners available to those in need. These are just some of the things View Royal can do to improve the situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. John, you're up next. You'll have 1 minute.
Thank you. I would ensure that our climate action strategy meets all its priority items and meets the greenhouse gas reduction targets that we've set. I would continue with the heat pump reduction program and bring in building codes, step codes 4 and 5 faster than the provincial guidelines. I would promote new housing that is affordable, but with a focus on bike, walk, transit, and car share. I would prioritize all of our safety gaps in sidewalks and bike lanes be addressed and lobby to increase the number 53 bus to Theas Lake to every 10 minutes of prime time. Let's have the bus shelters big enough to keep our riders out of the rain. We must plan, mitigate, and adapt for extreme weather events and the coming and costly sea rise. Thank you.
Thank you, John. David, you're up next. You have 1 minute.
Thank you very much. So the town did adopt a climate action plan last year, and different action items in that will come forth to budget next year. And we'll work on that. Clearly, from a local government perspective, the biggest areas we can address are emissions from vehicles and from buildings. And I think our plan goes a long way to address that. I'm a big fan of the town working on something that every resident could have of little ways that we can all battle climate change that we do in our day-to-day lives. And I would like to see that come to pass. We clearly need to also work with our partners in the region and the CRD in their fight against climate change. So I think there's a lot of good work happening, and I look forward to more good work on the important issue in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And finally, we have Judy. You're up next. You have 1 minute.
Thank you. I probably have a slightly different view than everyone else. I want to be mindful not to be caught up in a cause of the moment. I do think there are a myriad of little steps, and as time goes by, we do have an action plan in the city to look at that, to look at those little steps that everybody in the community to take. I am a driver. I work on the other side of the peninsula, so there are certain things that I am personally caring for, and so do most of my neighbors who work elsewhere. And switching to electric is a lovely idea, but what happens to those batteries at end of life? And that's my concern, because we're going to get to that place where at the end of a life cycle and we have all of these batteries and we have no place to put them. So I think that is something that as a city we have to look at, is what is our recycling and repurpose plan for those end of life processes for the batteries and the extreme use of electricity. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. So we'll move on to question 3 now. Ron, you're going to start us off. And the question is as follows. The official community plan is a top priority for View Royal, and a decision on the new document has been reserved for the newly elected council. Do you believe further consultation with residents on the OCP is required? Why or why not?
Thank you. A major plank in my election platform is revamping the draft official community plan currently written to reflect the residents' views and aspirations, and not those of housing advocates who do not live in our community. As currently written, the draft OCP will significantly increase the density, building height, tree loss, traffic in a number of single-family residential areas. This will have a significant negative impact on those residents' lives. There are areas in towns where higher density is appropriate, but not in well-established single-family residential areas. The most important thing your council can do this term is to work with residents to change the OCP to reflect residents' views and aspirations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. John, you're up next. You'll have 1 minute.
Thank you. Absolutely, I agree. Only 4% of residents responded to the OCP, and this is probably due to pandemic burnout. We must re-engage. Much more consultation is required, as well as an updated version of our transportation master plan, which was 2016. Residents want an objective third-party assessment that our transportation system won't collapse with densification. Residents are concerned about the plan with no height restrictions and a floor space ratio that few people can understand. There is opposition to the proposed corridors and transit zones, the loss of ambience, trees, and much more traffic on our quiet streets. Housing is critical, but the plan needs to be costed out with no surprises. Let's be sure everyone is on board before the province enshrines our plan, our vision, into stone, and we have little voice left. Thank you.
Thank you, John. David, you're up next. You'll have 1 minute.
Thank you. I think it's really important to note that this is a draft document. It came to council in May. The document was prepared with input from residents as well as housing professionals. There was never any intention that it would be adopted without more consultation. The whole reason the council unanimously decided to delay it until after the election, because we felt that we didn't want to go to the public in the summer and then try and deal with it before the election. So it's a draft. It's a work in progress, and it's at a point now where staff felt, let's take it to the residents and let's hear from the residents on this draft document. So I really encourage people to remember that. It's crucial. It's not etched in stone. It has a long ways to go, a mandated process to go through before it could even possibly be adopted. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Judy, you're up next. You'll have 1 minute.
Thank you. As I stated in my opening comments, I did participate in the OCP as a citizen in the online process. And there were moments that I felt it was a foregone solution looking for problems. And that was essentially something that had already been decided and was going to be forced down the throats of the residents. It was very clear what their thoughts were on density and other issues around the town. I absolutely believe additional community meetings throughout the town will alleviate the concern for me and other residents that the best possible plan will be put forth by the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Alison, you're up next. You have 1 minute.
I with some residents about concerns with the engagement process on the OCP, and my own experience was similar. It was great to have the opportunity to feed into the plan, but I also felt like our input was limited to a predetermined set of options, and new ideas or concerns weren't up for consideration. That said, I think the time and resources invested in this project have still been valuable and shouldn't go to waste. Would I suggest spending the money to redo it? Probably not, but I believe that the plan should just be a general guiding framework and not relied on exclusively. It is important that the community continue to have an opportunity to feed in meaningfully on development decisions. I also feel that there needs to be greater and ongoing communication from the town to residents living in those areas flagged for redevelopment to ensure that they are informed and can continue to shape plans for their neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, candidates. We seem to be a little bit ahead of time, which is unusual, but that's okay. It's now time to take a short break, and then we're going to return in about 10 minutes with Group B. So I've got 7:12 now, so we'll return at around 7:22 for Group B. So,
Chris?
Yes?
Chris, no, we're not there yet.
Oh. That's
We've got another core question.
oh, sorry, that's what I have in the script here.
We've got the next core question is about remuneration. On page 3.
Sorry.
Okay, well, what I'll do is I'll put it into the chat if you want to read it off, and then I will provide you with that information via email again. But let me get the question into the chat. You can read it, and the first person up is John. So here we go for the question.
Okay, John, you're up first with this question. View Royal Council recently approved an increase in remuneration for mayor and council to be paid starting January 1st. Do you support this? Why or why not?
Yes, I do. The independent consultant report was objective, credible, and rational. Frankly, council remuneration had fallen behind in the last 3 terms. I calculated the hours of council, committees, commission meetings, as well as intermunicipal and regional meetings, and this has included attendance of open houses, community centers, community events, neighborhood meetings. The hourly rate then was about $15 an hour with all the responsibilities, knowledge, and skills necessary to do the job. Now it's $23 an hour. With a 7-member council, I do think it's time for us to hold the cost of attending conferences, no more out of province, and rotate the attendance for the BC ones. Hopefully these BC conventions would have the option to attend electronically for half the cost. And I think this would be a responsible thing to reduce the overall cost to you, the taxpayer. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have, okay, we'll go with David next. You have 1 minute.
Thank you. I did support it at council, and I still do. I mean, I really feel and have felt for many years that the province should set up some sort of independent tribunal that looks at council wages across the province and does it on a per capita basis or something. I think it's a bad situation where council has to decide, but our policy is that we do it at the end of each term and that the new wage is for the incoming council. We need to keep up. The independent consultant put us at 75% of the average, so we're still below. You know, in my day job, I often have to take time off work, and I'm not complaining about that, but I do take a lot of time away from my business and for day meetings especially. And I think it's important that there's a fair compensation, and I think to encourage people to run, we must have a fair compensation. So yes, I know nobody likes to see an increase, but I am in support of it. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Judy, you're up next. You'll have 1 minute.
Thank you. I I would have rather seen the increases spread out over 4 years. I would have supported that implementation, so I'm not sure I would have voted for it as it stands now, but I would have voted for an increase, but spread out over the 4-year term. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Alison, you're up next. You have 1 minute.
I personally do not support the recent increase in council salary, particularly in light of the expansion of council size and inflation, which are already adding to the town's budget. I do not believe that people run for local government for financial reasons. They do it to improve their community. And I think regardless of the pay, that many of us on the call tonight would still be running for council without the increase. I recognize, though, that I do speak from a point of privilege as I am still working a full-time job. There may be others out there who would love to be involved in council, but are unable to because they need to work in the evenings to support their families, or would have to incur childcare costs to attend. For these people, the salary increase may allow them the opportunity to get involved, but there are a lot of barriers that have to be removed to encourage more diversity on council. And until we address these, we will continue to see the same candidates running year after year and benefiting from the salary increase. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison. Ron, you're up next. You'll have 1 minute.
Thank you. I voted against increasing council's remuneration. In 2018, when I and the others ran for council, we knew we'd be receiving around $16,000 per year. This level of remuneration was sufficient to attract a number of quality candidates, and the rate was increased annually to offset inflation. I really don't care what other municipalities are paying for their members of council, and I'm sure money is not the reason why the majority of us are running for council today. We're here because we care about our community. Unfortunately, we are facing uncertain financial times, and personally, I hope council votes to rescind the 34% pay raise the current council approved. If we're going to ask residents to tighten their belts, we should start by setting an example. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. And so thank you for your responses to the 4 core questions. We're now going to ask the candidates to answer from a set of randomly drawn questions, and we'll continue alphabetically by asking David Screech to go next. Candidates were provided with these 9 questions in advance, but they don't know which questions will be asked. Again, the Google random number generator will be used to determine which questions would be asked in order. To get as many questions as possible, once a question has been asked twice during the evening, it will be removed from the selection. Candidates, once again, you'll have 1 minute to answer each question. And we'll be, you'll see the raised hand from the timekeeper when you have 15 seconds left. Julie, are you there?
Yeah, I've just put the next question into the chat for you.
So the next question is number 9. What is your vision for sustainable growth in View Royal?
Thank you. That's an interesting question. I mean, I'm presuming they're meaning sustainable in terms of keeping our community sustainable. We do have a process at the moment that every new development must go through a sustainability checklist, and a lot of those issues are covered in that. We do have a community amenity contribution that every rezoning must pay, and that money is reinvested into the community. There are DCCs and building permit fees collected. So the big developments, for example, that are going on in North View Royal at the moment have paid a considerable amount of funds into the town, which will be used in the future to redo infrastructure, et cetera, as we need to. So it's every development goes through a process. The fire chief signs it, off on it, the building inspectors, the planners, and we have a very rigorous process to ensure the development that's approved in View Royal is going to be good for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And Judy, the second question is to you. Number 3, If there is one thing you could accomplish if you were elected or re-elected that would make a substantive difference in the lives of View Royal citizens, what would that be?
Thank you. I'd like to ensure that the outcome of the final OCP leaves residents feeling included, that there are widened streets where bottlenecks now exist, for example, near Eagle Creek and along Island Highway and Burnside, and that traffic flow for now and the future is improved for the cars that are here and that are going to be coming. And that there are height restrictions written into our bylaws, that there are setbacks, that there's green space and community space available for meetings or recreation. That's a bit more than one thing, but I think they're all related. Thank you. Oh, shit. Oops, sorry. Should I repeat the whole thing? I said it, but I didn't have my video on. Oh,
I think
okay,
that's
okay. All right, it's okay. Never mind. You got it. You don't need my video. Never mind.
Okay, Alison, you're up next. The question is number 6. What is your view on the amalgamation of municipalities of Greater Victoria, including View Royal, into one municipality of Victoria?
Thank you. I would strongly oppose the amalgamation of municipalities into one Victoria. We each have unique resources and demographics that result in a different set of priorities. The concerns of downtown Victoria, for example, may require a significant amount of attention, whereas in View Royal, they may not be as prevalent. I would fear that it would result in increased taxes for services and benefits that View Royal residents do not benefit from. Having a council specifically for View Royal allows us to focus our time and financial resources on addressing our unique needs to ensure that our community doesn't fall through the cracks and in fact thrives into the future. With a greater population per councillor, amalgamation would mean that direct contact with our elected officials becomes stretched. This contact is an important part of ensuring that people are being heard and that councillors are making representative decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison. Ron, the next question is to you. Question number 9. What is your vision for sustainable growth in View Royal?
Thank you. View Royal has been one of the fastest growing municipalities in British Columbia in terms of percentage increase in population. And View Royal has also approved a significant number of new housing units in the past couple of years. And we know there are many areas of the town which could be developed for higher density housing. I believe we need to see the impact of the current housing projects that are being developed in our community in terms of impacts on traffic, park use, and municipal services and costs before continuing the same course. We need to see if this type of growth is sustainable and whether it's in keeping with the views of our residents. Well, I believe residents would benefit from additional community amenities such as medical offices, stores, restaurants, coffee shops, etc. Growth should not be at the expense of View Royal's unique charm and character. Thank you.
Thank you. And John, the last question for this round goes to you. The question is number 4. Affordable housing is no longer just a Victoria problem. It is a regional issue. What will you do to help alleviate this issue?
Thank you. I'm proud that we contribute to the Regional Housing Trust Fund for this purpose. In addition, I think we should consider housing density along the coming rapid transit line to Colwood. This also has 2 regional trails and a future ENN transportation corridor. This would enable a walkable shopping complex as well that would serve the 1,000 homes, people living in 6 Mile Riverside area. It's close to Eagle Creek School and the WestShore Rec Center. We also need a diverse mix of affordable housing options for families such as townhomes. Let's get the provincial government back on track to fund the cooperative housing program that it had in the past that complements the ambience of existing neighborhoods. I hope that this includes the revitalization with the Glentana area upon their interest and request. Ideally, we would reduce the parking demand so that savings could be passed on to the consumer, and that would also benefit with less traffic on our streets. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so all of the candidates in Group A have had a chance to answer 1 round of random questions. So we'll go through 1 more round and then we will take a short break before moving on to Group B. David, we're going to start with you. The next question is question number 3. If there is one thing you could accomplish if you were elected or re-elected that would make a substantive difference in the lives of View Royal citizens, what would that be?
Thank you. That is such a hard question to answer, one thing, but I think given the climate of today, the one obvious thing is to help to address the doctors' crisis. And I think municipalities can do that by claiming amenity space from developers, but also working with nonprofits to set up spaces where possibly we could give tax breaks for doctors to set up practices. We need to lobby the province hard. View Royal's been doing that. We've taken a lead. We took a motion to UBCM recently that was endorsed by across the province. But it's top of mind for everybody. And while it's not a local government issue per se, it is something having a tremendous impact on our community and on our residents. And it's something we need to see a solution for. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. The next question is to you. It's question number 8. What opportunities do you believe exist for View Royal to collaborate with other municipalities or with First Nations?
One of my personal bugaboos is graffiti, and I think it is a blight on our entire area, every municipality, the CRD, and on First Nations land. Eliminating this crime and perhaps finding a way to have taggers and graffiti artists contribute to our communities rather than destroy it would be my goal. Shared services versus everyone having the same positions is another way that I think we have an opportunity to collaborate. Everybody's got the same positions. Do we all need it, or can we share personnel, and can jobs be shared? I'm also very concerned that we can collaborate with traffic flow management and go even as far as food safety. There are children in our areas that are hungry. We need to make sure that that is not happening anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. Alison, the next question is to you, and it's a bit of a long one, so bear with me. It's question number 2. Recruiting and retaining top talent at all levels of an organization seems to be a very common theme among businesses in the West Shore, or View Royal. In addition to affordability and healthcare, people are looking for robust community services such as childcare options, youth engagement programs, after-school programs, and family support programs. What can we do as a community of leaders to add such beneficial recruitment and retention features to our regional offering for workers?
Thank you. Well, I'm happy I got this question because I am a director of labor market policies. I can share that this is an issue that we are facing all across BC. Due to shifts in demographics, we are short on labor supply and will need to start engaging more of the potential workforce which aren't currently working, which includes those who are retired and who face greater barriers to employment. We will also need to attract new entrants, including those from other parts of BC, Canada, and internationally. While many of the labor incentives are at the provincial and federal level, affordable housing is a significant barrier for many to work in Victoria and View Royal. In order to entice the untapped labor market, working in these jobs will need to be as convenient as possible. At the municipal level, what we can do is to support the development of affordable housing located near these critical facilities, businesses, and services so that people want to work and can do so locally in View Royal. Thank you.
Thank you. Ron, the next question is to you. It's question number 5. What part can View Royal play in improving transportation options within the municipality and across the region?
Thank you. View Royal is a pinch point for traffic between Saanich, Victoria, Esquimalt, and the Western communities, with well over 90% of the traffic on the Island Highway and Trans-Canada Highway coming from outside of View Royal. I have and will continue to support and encourage the development of View Royal's pedestrian, cycling, and public transit networks as part of an interconnected transportation system. However, to significantly improve the current regional situation, All levels of government will need to work together to get commuters out of their cars and onto public transit, to reduce the number of single occupancy vehicles, to increase carpooling, and perhaps most important, to provide improved public transportation. The long-term fix must be light rail transit and utilizing the ENN corridor for its intended purpose as a rail corridor. Thank you.
Thank you. And John, the last question for this round is to you. It's question number 6. What is your view on amalgamation of municipalities of Greater Victoria, including View Royal, into one municipality of Victoria?
Thank you. It's not going to happen. What might be possible and even necessary is a 3 municipality model, Core, Peninsula, and West Shore. But I'm hard pressed to see that it's going to happen soon. I think the autonomy of the municipalities is really important, but it depends. It depends on how much we're going to be able to cooperate and coordinate the essential aspects of maintaining 13 municipalities with 92 mayors and the CRD being able to handle it all. I sometimes wonder if the current model will sustain itself as the increased costs are coming and escalating. It has growing demands for the finite services, but I am encouraged that the West Shore has a very efficient RCP contract, that the fire departments are working together really well. And the more the municipalities come together and service their shared services, the less amalgamation will happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and now it is halftime, so time to take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back and start with Group B. So I have about 7:33, so why don't we come back at 7:45 and start with Group B. So we'll see you back in about just over 10 minutes. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Hope you enjoyed your break. Apologies for the slight glitch we had with Group A. We have figured out what the issue was. Turns out it was a PC to Mac issue where the script, for some reason, the Mac left off parts of the script. So we've gone to PDF and we should be good. So fingers crossed. All right. So next, we're going to move into questions with Group B. If you're just joining us, in order to avoid voters listening to 9 responses to the same questions all at once, the candidates have been divided into 2 groups. All candidates in both groups are asked 4 core questions and then 2 randomly drawn questions. The candidates in Group B are Don Brown, Damian Kowalewich, Gery Lemon, Sid Tobias. Okay, so once again, we've used the Google random number generator to determine who would go first in answering questions. And we are just telling candidates about this now. So Don Brown, you're going to go first, and then we'll take it in turn alphabetically. Candidates, you will have 1 minute to answer each question, and you will see the raised hand from our timekeeper when you have 15 seconds left. Don, the first question is, many residents are struggling in the current economic environment, given the steep growth in inflation. How will this factor into how you vote on spending initiatives?
It's very important to maintain a balanced budget. I have experienced 12 years with school boards, and we had to, by law, submit a balanced budget every year. I'm also the strata president for my strata in View Royal. And we have to maintain a balanced budget, and any extra money, if we're lucky enough, it goes into a contingency for any unforeseen expenses. I think that the public needs to have more input into the budget process, whether that's by surveys, by mail, or in person. And perhaps the council could consider moving some of their budget meetings to multiple locations within View Royal so people can easily attend and express their preferences and their priorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Damian, you're next. You'll have 1 minute.
Thank you very much. This question here is so important right now. It's on the minds of all Canadians, arguably. I think all of us can agree that we're all feeling the squeeze in our wallets or our purses, wherever we happen to carry our money. We know right now that with inflation rising, interest rates are as high as they've been in years, that Canadians and people in View Royal in particular tonight are watching our levels of government closely. Even at a local government level, we have a responsibility to be mindful of this issue. Simply dealing with budgets is not the answer. We need a true pulse on the community. We need to hear what our residents are feeling, how exactly they've been impacted by the economy, and we need to make some hard decisions on our service levels. Do we keep them the same? Do we lessen them in some areas? Or do we need to account and plan accordingly for certain unique circumstances, such as natural disasters or a capital expenditure? Pardon me?
Time, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Damian. Gery, you're up next. You have 1 minute.
Thank you very much for this question. Yeah, I think that as council, we're ever mindful of the pressures that are facing our residents. And in each of the budget cycles that I've been a part of, we spend a considerable amount of time trimming. And what, you know, we have the grand scheme, and then we spend a lot of time trimming and deciding what is an absolute essential and what is really nice to have and what we can do without this year in order to keep taxes low. We are very, very fortunate that tax dollars largely pay for operational expenses, whereas the likes of new fire trucks or portable washroom facilities in our parks come from the casino. And having that as a real asset in our community helps keep View Royal taxes.
Time, please.
In the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Gery. And next up is Sid. You have 1 minute.
Thanks, Chris, for the question. I would advocate strongly for no new tax increases. I think taxpayers are burdened enough with inflation right now at an unprecedented level. And any new costs that could affect should be going through extensive consultation. I also believe in proactive disclosure. So folks should be able to log in online and see an active running budget and whether it's going to meet scheduled forecast or not. I think we're also in a wonderful opportunity, having survived a year without the revenue being generated by the casino, to still manage to balance our budgets. Obviously, there was some room there to be creative, and I would continue to see some restraints like that continue while still keeping up with a plan to focus on our infrastructure, sidewalks and roadways in particular. Thank you.
All right, thank you, candidates. Damian, you're going to start us off with the next question, and it is, what specific actions do you want the town of View Royal to take to address climate concerns?
Climate action is critical for all of us. At a local government level, we have to step up and combat this scientifically proven global issue. As somebody with a young family, I know that the future of our Earth and our community is changing by the day. We need to take actions to mitigate climate change at a local level. Federal and provincial bodies have their responsibilities. We have work to do as well. Specifically, we have to listen learn and take action. I'm proud of some of the steps we've taken so far. We've worked in partnership with the View Royal Climate Coalition. We have implemented rebates for heat pumps. We've done a strict assessment of our capital expenditures, buildings and infrastructure and vehicles to determine the level of greenhouse gases they're emitting and looking for ways to mitigate that in the future. We do need to step up. We do need to have strategic partnership, work in concert with levels of government and stakeholders to help move forward and solve climate change. Thank you.
Thank you, Damian. Gery, you're up next. You have 1 minute.
Okay, thank you very much. Council has been, start my video. Council has been focused on climate initiatives, and as councillor and liaison to the View Royal Climate Coalition, I've been proud. We were one of the first to declare a climate emergency, and we have a climate action strategy, but we can go further. I'd like to see enhanced dollar incentives for homeowners who swap out their gas-fired furnaces for heat pumps, and for drivers who switch from their fuel combustion vehicles to EVs. I'd like to see fast chargers installed in View Royal, plus more EV charging stations around the municipality, such as one serving the north side and one in Chilco and Thetis Lake area. Also encouraging shopping center owners to install charging stations. I'm talking very fast because I know time's short. And also a commitment to the construction.
Time, please.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Gery. Sid, you're up next. You have 1 minute.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, it's near and dear to my heart. I think what I'm seeing right now is canopy being wasted in developments. There's no way we can replace those trees. I would advocate for an implementation of an application called iTree, which calculates the true value of that tree for carbon capture and CO2, as well as ensuring that we do everything we can to preserve our natural canopy. The other concern I have right now that is immediate is the construction and the cumulative effects underway. We have acid-bearing rocks that are leaching every time it rains back into the ecosystem, as well as increasing turbidity and sediment in our streams and our water tables. And it's not only what we do to develop, but it's how we develop as well. And we really, really need to get control of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sid. And Don, you're up next. You'll have 1 minute.
Yeah, thank you. I think one of the things we have to do is our fleet of vehicles at Town of View Royal. We have to replace them with electric vehicles. And I think we should get some more charging stations, community charging stations spread out throughout the town. I think too, with climate change, we're just one small municipality, but whatever we can do is a small help for the whole world. I think we have to pay now. We have to pay now for either pay now or pay more later. So what we pay now will cost us less later in time. I think we have to reduce the traffic flows, and doing that by maybe encouraging more job sharing, reduced work weeks, better paths, better trails, better bike paths, and to make it a safe, healthy community and have places where people can be safe to ride their bikes and walk. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Gery, you're going to start us off with the next question, question number 3, which is: the official community plan is a top priority for View Royal, and a decision on the new document has been reserved for the newly elected council. Do you believe further consultation with residents on the OCP is required, and why or why not?
Thank you, Chris. I can keep this very short. The answer is yes, of course it is. The draft OCP won't proceed at all without more public input. It was a very weird term for council. It was difficult to engage and consult with residents. Safety, of course, came first, so that must happen. It's vital. Yes.
Thank you. Sid, you're up next. You have 1 minute.
Thanks, Chris. I think that OCP should have been a ballot issue, so let's make it one. If elected, I would shred the current draft OCP. I think everyone that I've talked to is actually losing sleep out of what's going to happen in our own backyards. And I don't really see the value of the OCP anyway, because Currently, many of the developments have just applied for variance and rezoning anyway. So we're really not following an OCP. So I would start afresh with extensive community consultation on the OCP and build it around communities instead of a town center that we've been trying to chase for over a decade, and strengthen the services within those communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Sid. Don, you're up next. You have 1 minute.
Yeah, the OCP does need further consideration. So far, we've received very, very little input from the community, under 5%. I think we need to get more input from residents and numerous ways. And that could include surveys by mail, by phone, or multiple meetings in different locations throughout the town. It shouldn't always be meetings strictly at the town of View Royal. I really believe in moving the meetings around. There certainly hasn't been enough opportunity, and yes, more input is needed for sure in the OCP.
Thank you, Don. Damian, you're up next. You have 1 minute.
Thank you. And just for those of you viewers right now, and you know, when I started in politics, I didn't even know what OCP meant. It's an official community plan. It's basically the roadmap for our community. It's what I look at as a city councillor. It's what you look at as a resident. It's what developers look at. It's what provincial and federal governments look at. It's who we are. It's our long-term vision. Now, let's be very clear. This is in a draft format. We have just gone through a worldwide pandemic that happened over, the last time was over 100 years ago. This is not over. There, by no means did council think that we would be putting this to bed before the next election cycle. This is ongoing. I expect more community consult, and I will do everything I can to elicit as much interaction and community involvement with this current OCP moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Damian. And Sid, we're going to go to you first for the final core question, and that is, View Royal Council recently approved an increase in remuneration for mayor and council to be paid starting January 1st. Do you support this? Why or why not?
I absolutely do not support it, and part of my election platform was to give back any raise to the mayor's salary if elected, back to increase engagement efficiencies within the town of View Royal. I would like to hold it open, as stated before. I think there's an opportunity there for those who come behind me, should I be elected, to be adequately compensated for their role. But I certainly don't, in this format, expect that the type of increase is anywhere in line with the rate of inflation and the expectations for taxpayers to be able to foot the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Sid. And Don, you're up next. You have 1 minute.
I support the pay raise only because this is going to be the same for the next 4 years. Also, at one time, trustees, councillors, and mayors had one third of their salary as a tax-free benefit, and that's no longer exists. So I think that has to be taken into consideration. If I had had the opportunity to vote on it, I would have asked for I would have made a motion to amend the motion to approve, and I would have asked it to be tabled until September of 2023 to review it and discuss it at that time. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Damian, you're up next. You have 1 minute.
Thank you. Matter of fact, I did support this this motion for remuneration to move up, and I still do. First off, setting your own salary is very challenging, and I think His Worship Mayor Screech alluded to it earlier. There should really be some type of provincial oversight for municipalities when it comes to elected officials and pay. There needs to be a more structured system to it. And maybe that can be something we recommend next term. But one thing that I think some people are missing is that this salary, for some of us who are comfortable enough that the remuneration doesn't affect our day-to-day lives, for some people it does. And if we're able to expand our candidate base, that makes me happy. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is something we really wanted to get out of increasing council sizes. Personally, I was disappointed. I wish we had more people come forward. And if this increase even upticks that by 1 in the future, I'll call it a success. Please. And I think overall it's a positive thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Damian. And lastly, Gery, you're up. You have 1 minute. think you might be on mute.
There we go. Thank you very much. You know, I was torn on this point initially, given that we just voted to expand the council size. But I did ultimately vote in favor, in large part because the current pay is little incentive for the kind of diversity we were seeking. People who may have to leave work or pay for childcare in order to attend meetings. Some of our meetings occur in the afternoon, and there needs to be some compensation for a young parent, for example, to attend. Also, there's much more to being on council than just attending council meetings. And I'm just an example. I'm on the Greater Victoria Library Board and attend regular board meetings, policy committee meetings. I'm on the Arts Commission, attend regular meetings, and each meeting requires preparation. I'm also, you know, the liaison to Parks and Rec Advisory Committee and the View Royal Climate Coalition. All require, you know, attendance and attention and preparation. So yes.
Time, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gery, and thank you all for your responses to the 4 core questions. We are now going to ask candidates to answer from a set of randomly drawn questions, and we'll continue on alphabetically by asking Dawn Brown to go next. Candidates were provided these 9 questions in advance, but they don't know which question will be asked. Again, we use the Google random number generator to determine which questions would be asked and in which order. To get to as many questions as possible, once a question has been asked twice during the evening, it will be removed from the selection. Candidates, once again, you have 1 minute to answer each question, and you will see the raise hand from our timekeeper when you have 15 seconds left. Dawn, the first randomly selected question is number 7. What single emerging issue do you foresee in View Royal's near future that you would tackle if you were elected? And how would you go about solving or mitigating that issue?
Thank you. Well, for one thing, affordable housing is very, very important. In fact, availability of housing is probably going to be a continuing issue for a long time. We live in a very attractive area, and we're going to continue to have an influx of people. So we need to have multi-styles of housing, you know, from condos to townhouses to single-family homes, and I certainly encourage in-law suites and carriage houses, and there should be permitting allowed to have people to have these, providing they're for residents to stay for 30 days or more. I don't agree that short-term rentals would be good for the community, but I think we have to be able to attract people, and I think that's still going to be a very continuing, ongoing problem because of our high costs of real estate and rentals here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn. Damian, the next question goes to you. It is question number 1. What steps would you take to improve access to arts and culture opportunities in the West Shore?
Well, I'm really glad I got this question, and I can tell you with a young family with children involved with the arts and music, I am right in the thick of things in the West Shore with arts and culture. Matter of fact, early in last term, I championed the first ever View Royal Arts Fest. We hosted it at the Eagle Creek Shopping Center. We had local artists and musicians there along with crafters. Children were able to come and paint on driftwood, and we were able to showcase our View Royal skills, culminating with us council selecting the top piece of artwork, which is proudly displayed in our council chambers. We need to push our youth to be involved in music and arts to make sure that they're living healthy lifestyles. But we also have to provide those opportunities as local government representatives. The West Shore Parks and Recreation Center offers a multitude of programs. I sit as the vice chair, and I've been championing that for the last few years. Thank you.
Thank you, Damian. Gery, the next question goes to you. It is question number 2, and again, it's a bit of a long one, so bear with me. Recruiting and retaining top talent at all levels of an organization seems to be a very common theme among businesses in the West Shore. In addition to affordability and healthcare, people are looking for robust community services such as childcare options, youth engagement programs, after-school programs, and family support programs. What can we do as a community of leaders to add such beneficial recruitment and retention features to our regional offering for workers?
Thank you for this question. I'm proud that a resolution that I brought to council calling on the province to address the doctor's crisis as it would any state of emergency in BC was unanimously supported by the delegates at the Union of BC Municipalities Conference just 2 weeks ago. But on that point, I would confer with council colleagues on what we can do as a municipality to attract and retain trained doctors. Social and health programs are the purview of the province, and we can lobby and write letters and meet with MLAs and members of cabinet. But as a town, we can't take on the full weight of responsibility of social programs, but should and will support and advocate where we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Gery. And Sid, the last question goes to you, and that is question number 8. What opportunities do you believe exist for View Royal to collaborate with other municipalities or with First Nations?
I think there's an excellent opportunity to increase collaboration. And I think part of the reason why there's a push to consider CRD involvement is probably we need to up our game significantly when it comes to collaboration, particularly around the issues of transportation and being able to get traffic moving smoothly and not idling in traffic and creating more CO2 and waste while they're waiting there. I also think increased collaboration on police forcing for our trails to keep them safe is a significant issue, and some of the most horrific crimes in the West Shore have occurred in the same things that give us active transportation. So I think greater cooperation amongst First Nations as well, to look at any sense that we can collaborate to improve the lives of the citizens of both communities, are significantly important enough to invest heavily in.
Thank you, Sid. So at this point, all of the candidates in Group B have had a chance to answer one round of the random questions. We'll go through one more round, and then we will move on to the closing statements for all candidates. Dawn, we'll start again with you, and the question is number 4. Affordable housing is no longer just a Victoria problem. It is a regional issue. What will you do to help alleviate this issue?
We have to do a number of things. We have to work closely with our partners, particularly the other levels of government. Certainly the provincial and federal government can assist in that. It is a regional problem. We have to encourage more multi-mixed dwellings to bring more people to View Royal in a way they can afford. So that, again, that can be condos, townhouses, single-family homes with suites or carriage houses. And this would go a long way. And I think there are some initiatives coming from the provincial government that may assist us in that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn. Damian, the second question goes to you. It is question number 5. What part can View Royal play in improving transportation options within the municipality and across the region?
I've had the luxury of being the chair of the Transportation Committee for some time now. I'm very well versed with the challenges that we face in View Royal. We are in the center of the Capital Regional District. Traffic flows through us every single day. I hear more concerns about traffic than almost any other issue in View Royal. I continue to work tirelessly with different levels of government, BC Transit, to mitigate any kind of impacts of traffic. You see, locally, what we can do, though, is we need to provide options for our residents to move around freely within the town. That might mean bikes, that might mean walking, that might mean trails. We have to get out of the big picture, but keep it in mind and stay local and make sure that our folks can move around. And that goes along with thoughtful development as well. Neighborhood nodes, putting convenience stores, shops, services, doctors in walking distance. We have that responsibility, we have that ability, and we're moving towards that. Thank you.
Thank you, Damian. Gery, the next question is to you. It's question number 1. What steps would you take to improve access to arts and culture opportunities in the West Shore?
And coming right up. Sorry for the delay.
Okay, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. Good, thank you. One of the questionnaires that I received and responded to from a local organization asked that very question. And certainly it is time for the West Shore, and in that scope, I'm including View Royal, to have its own cultural center. Just imagine a venue where the local talent can perform and showcase art and talent. And given the size and the population of this part of the region, it's long overdue. People want less and less to drive into town as to be the only way they can take in a show, for example, and almost nobody wants to play, let's find a parking spot downtown. I think the way to support this is to look at a collaborative model, much as we have with Parks and Recreation, where West Shore Parks, the Wandapuka facility, and work with neighboring communities in order to establish a similar body for arts and cultural.
Thank you, Gery. And Sid, the last question in this round goes to you. It is question number 7. What single emerging issue do you foresee in View Royal's near future that you would tackle if you were elected? How would you go about solving or mitigating this issue?
I think my biggest issue that I'd focus on, that was #1 on my campaign, is increasing the engagement for the public. What I'm hearing in small groups of neighbors as I visit them is they do not feel heard. They do not feel that their input is respected by council. And I think my focus would be on increasing every opportunity, both digitally and in person, for meetings to seek to engage the input of the wealth of experience and passion that our citizens have. Thank you.
Thank you, Sid, and thank you to all the candidates. We're now going to move on to the closing statements. We're going to start with 2 minutes per councillor candidate and in reverse alphabetical order, followed by 3 minutes by the mayoral candidates. I'd like to invite John Rogers to get us started. John, you'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. Hello, I'm John Rogers and I'm seeking re-election for View Royal Council. I've lived here for over 50 years. Maureen and I, my wife, and I love living here. It's been an honor to serve you for so many years. I have thoroughly investigated the town's issues and sought creative solutions for difficult situations. Let's keep our town ambience livable, sustainable, and prosperous. Its safe neighborhoods, reasonable taxes, walkable amenities, well-maintained infrastructure, and great protective services are all some of the reasons that we choose to live, work, and play here. My record stands on commitment, integrity, and the full preparation on all council matters. Being retired, I have the time and energy necessary to work effectively on your behalf and achieve long-lasting beneficial results. I bring a fair and balanced approach to the town's business concerns. The next 4 years will have significant challenges for both our community and the region. This calls for experience, dedication, accountability, teamwork, and prudent fiscal management. These are all proven qualities that I will continue to bring to your council. My commitment to you remains the same: provide open governance and encourage public participation, broaden our tax base, manage spending wisely, promote affordable affordable housing, be climate responsible for our children's future, collaborate on regional issues such as transportation, affordable housing, the homeless, climate change, and many other matters. So let's continue to work together, meet the challenges, and build on our successes. My website is reelectrogers.ca. Make your vote count on October the 15th. Please reelect me, John Rogers. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Ron, you're up next. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. To the residents of View Royal, thank you again for the opportunity to represent you on council. Well, it's been a long time. I'm hoping you will allow me to represent you for a 9th and final term. I want to be there to mentor and provide support to our new council members as they learn the ins and outs of municipal governance. It's a fairly steep learning curve, But from what I've read and what I've heard tonight, the town's residents will be well served by whomever they elect. To my current colleagues, I would like to thank you for your love of community and for the work, for all of your work over the past 4 years. For those of you running for the first time, if you're elected, you'll find it a very interesting and rewarding journey. Remember, municipal government is the level of government where you can have the greatest impact on your residents' lives. So good luck to all candidates in the upcoming election. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Ron. Alison, you're up next. You have 2 minutes.
I'm so proud to be surrounded by a great number of candidates for the town of View Royal here tonight. With my closing words, I would like to encourage everyone to get out there and vote and have their say. To me, the most important part of this process is ensuring a representative council, not only in terms of gender or location in town where elected officials live, but also values and hopes for the future. Ultimately, our collective minds as residents will result in what is best for the future of the town. And what I commit to, if elected, is to continue to listen meaningfully to your concerns and ideas. No matter where you live, whether you rent or own or who you know, everyone deserves to be heard and to receive a considered and respectful response from town staff or council. And I've heard you loud and clear. You are reasonable and understand the need for development, but rightly you expect council to consider and address the knock-on hardships for current residents. You care about the environment and want to protect our green spaces, but you also need the town to champion this too. You care about the future of the town, but are also concerned with the challenges of today, and council needs to keep taxes low in this time of inflation. Not only will I continue to walk your neighborhoods and ask you for input, but I will work hard for you to take action and get things done. I have the educational, professional, and community experience that equips me to bring to the table innovative and cost-effective solutions and to carry those out. We are in a time of change like never before, and the status quo is not an option if we want our town to thrive into the future. So come voting day, I hope you welcome a different point of view to the table. It would be my honor to represent you and be your voice. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison. Gery, you're up next. You have 2 minutes.
Thanks very much. There are several matters I would have been happy to speak to tonight, such as the importance of the rail corridor and saying more about the importance of doing what we can to fix the doctor's crisis. But I'll close by saying this. When you're elected, many of the issues that come at you are unanticipated. And that's the real challenge of the job. It's dealing with the matters and realities of the day, whether it's the climate or the economy. What I bring to considerations is common sense. I'll ask direct questions that often are the question you would want answered. I'll stay informed, and you can trust me to make decisions based on what I believe is right for our town. And I'm delighted that whatever the outcome on October 15, for the first time in its history, View Royal will have at least 2 women on council. Thank you.
Thank you, Gery. And Damian, you're up next. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you for all of the great responses from all the candidates tonight. I can honestly say I learned so much just by listening, and we were able to touch on 3 of my platform issues, which are transportation, thoughtful commercial and residential development, and of course fiscal responsibility. So it was nice to hear some of those. My experience as a law enforcement detective, an instructor at Dalhousie University, vice chair of the WestShore Parks and Rec Society, chair of the Transportation Committee, alternate director of the CRD, liaison for the WestShore Chamber of Commerce, and school council liaison. I have a true pulse on this community, and I take that very seriously. There's a lot of honor and trust that goes along with it, and I do not take it lightly. I have an authentic interest in making View Royal one of the best communities in Canada. With a young family, I am actually working for their future and your future. I take public trust very seriously. If I am reelected, I will remain dedicated to all of you I will listen, I will learn, and I will make sure that everybody from all walks of life are truly heard. Thank you, everybody who's watched the forum tonight. I know it was late, and I know you've taken the time out of your day to watch it. And good night.
Thank you, Damian. Judy, you're up next. You have 2 minutes. I think you're on mute.
Hi, thank you again. I'm not a run-of-the-mill candidate. I'm quick study, I'm outspoken, I'm passionate, I'm straightforward, honest, and not always as tactful as I should be. But I'm committed to working with View Royal residents in partnership with the council, the residents, and the staff to follow through on commitments that I make. I'm known as an out-of-the-box thinker, and I want to bring that thought process that I look at things from a different perspective to everything that comes before council. I'm interested in partnering with everyone in View Royal. Government is not an us, them. Governance is a partnership, and I believe in public service, and I believe in partnering. I'm Judy Estrin. If you like what you've heard from me this evening, I urge you to tell your family and friends and neighbors. I have a vision for View Royal. 6 of us are going to be elected. I ask that you make me one of the 6. You'll be glad you did. I appreciate everything that WestShore did in sponsoring this. And thank you, Chris, for hosting us and moderating for us tonight. And thank you to all the other candidates. What a great experience this has been. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. And Don, you're up next. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce and Julie and Chris and Ron, I believe the timekeeper. It's great, and all the people that have tuned in to find out some more about the candidates. My key thing is to keep View Royal a safe, healthy, and happy community. And I want to see as many people out to vote as possible. So please encourage your friends, your neighbors, your family to get out and vote. And if you know somebody that isn't physically able to get out to vote, offer them a ride to the polls. I think that's important. And if you want to find more information about me, please check my website, www.votedonbrown1951@gmail. And I hope on October 15th, you'll consider me for one of your votes. Thank you very much and have a good evening.
Thank you, Don. And now we'll move on to the 2 mayoral candidates. You'll have 3 minutes each, starting with Sid.
Thanks, Chris, and thanks, Julie, for your work and setting this up and all the practice in between in the WestShore Chamber of Commerce. I think hosting an opportunity like this to showcase the options that folks will have on the 15th of October when they go to the polls is absolutely essential. I want to be clear in echoing my neighbors' voices. I've met with small groups of them around the town of View Royal, and they can't sleep because they're worried about potential developments, the draft OCP. And I'd certainly like to be able to have them be able to get a good night's sleep and be able to dream about building a better neighborhood that they can feel confident and be able to go back into their beds each night and be able to do the same thing. My focus is on engagement and increasing transparency in decision-making. Sustainable development, not only as in a plan, but in the process of sustainable development. Heavy on that is going to be canopy tree conservation. I think I ran with a platform that was somewhat unique, and I had no signs for a reason. And that is those signs end up in our landfill. Some of them of our more seasoned councillors and mayors may be able to recycle some ones from old, but many of them are new. It's become a real problem downtown. And I stick to the fact that I think there's a new way of doing things. And I don't think signs are a way to increase name recognition. I represent change. I also represent innovation. The things I know I'm good at is building good teams that can make good decisions, both in staff and amongst the teams that make decisions. I do not believe in a rail corridor. I think with all the problems we have on our plate, I think it's a red herring. I would, switch the conversation to the possibilities of a rapid train transit to the West Shore, but I think that the rail corridor is paved over for a reason. I do not see it as economically viable within my lifetime. I think everybody's heard me when I said I would give back the raise that's already been voted in for the mayor, and I would not increase taxes. I am running because you asked me to for my neighbors in View Royal, and I think there needs to be a dramatic shift from decisions being made about not in my backyard for people that are making decisions that if you wouldn't want it in your backyard, why would you expect anybody else would? I would also like to focus on the fact that I would deviate from the core concept of the OCP and move it from a town center to enhance our neighborhoods and make them the center of our worlds. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sid. And finally, we have David. Do you have 3 minutes?
Thank you very much. Just give me half a second here. Sorry. Thank you. I am proud of our town and the amazing community we have built in View Royal. View Royal has a distinct character that is valued by its residents, and it is indeed one of the best places to call home. The term ahead is an important one for the future of our community. We have the new official community plan to deal with, and we have increasing developmental pressures. The new council will almost immediately embark on a strategic planning session that will guide the town over the next 4 years. It will also be a term of transition and will be most important for council and staff to lay the foundation for the future of View Royal. There will be key staff retiring in the next 4 years, and if I'm re-elected, this will definitely be my last term. I believe my experience will be important in ensuring that these key staff positions are filled appropriately and that the foundation is laid for the future. I'd like to rebut a few points that have been made tonight. The comments about the OCP are perplexing to me. We talk about shredding a document. You know, the cost of that would be hundreds of thousands of dollars. But more important than that, this is not a major rewrite. Our OCP was done in 2011, and we are now doing what basically is minor changes to it. And it's really important for people to remember that the changes that are being suggested have come from input from the committee. And those are things like carriage houses possibly on large lots. Should we allow townhouses in the harbor precinct? You know, there's no earth-shattering changes in this document, and it's still going to go through a public process. So please, everyone, remember that. COVID-19 has made it impossible for us to engage the public properly. There's just no two ways about that, and it's really important that people remember that. No candidate should be promising to not increase taxes. It is just a promise that cannot be kept. Staff have wage increases, fire department have wage increases, police contract, et cetera, et cetera. Minister Eby's comments yesterday should be top of mind for everybody. His plans include a complete violation of the principles enshrined in a charter between the Union of British Columbia Municipalities and the province. They could be devastating to our community, and they will make our talk of the community plan completely, it's irrelevant. The all-consuming issue of the next term could be local government's response to the province's overreach. I have the experience, I have the influence, and I have the connections with the government to ensure View Royal voices are heard. I have been honored and proud to serve you for so many years, and I ask again for your support on October 15th. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. So that concludes the closing statements, and that also concludes this evening's View Royal All Candidates Forum. So I want to thank all the candidates for appearing this evening and for running. Our democracy only works because of you. And of course, the second part of that is that everyone who can gets out and votes. So thank you for tuning in this evening and learning more about the candidates and their platforms. In addition, I want to mention that the View Royal Community Association is hosting a candidate meet and greet on Tuesday, October 4th from 6:30 to 8:30. Residents can drop by and go to the various tables, get information and ask questions. The address for that is 279 Island Highway at Beaumont Avenue. Please remember that there is advance voting, which takes place on October 5th and 11th, and then the voting day is October 15th. So please go to viewroyal.ca for more information on where to vote. And once again, thank you one and all, and I wish you a good evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks a
Good night,
lot.
everyone, and thank you.
Bye all.